Hey. So, I wanted to talk about the stupid minimum wage proposition to raise it to $15 an hour. Probably what I'm going to say is going to sound a bit unfavorable to people, especially if anybody who's on minimum wage actually listens to this. But, in all fairness, I have been a minimum wage employee for 18 years. Still am. I mean, I work it as a side job, but still technically am. So anyways, I think the $15 minimum wage is ridiculous. That idea needs to not happen. See, this is basically the situation with typical minimum wage type jobs. It's someplace like fast food or just, basic retail, like you're working a register. You get paid dick money for a reason. One, it's super easy. You're not skilled. Most of these employees are high schoolers. Or it's people like, sometimes it's people who are kind of retired and they just work it just to have something to do. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to say a stay-at-home mom. Obviously, she's got a job, but it's someone who's trying to have a flexible enough schedule so she can be home to get the kids on the bus and then be home when they get home. So, you're looking for like a weird 6-hour day, 9 to 2 or something like that. I guess that's 5 hours. You know what I mean? But it's people like that. So obviously you're not going to be making top dollar. And then, so I said one. And then two is these type of jobs aren't really made to be careers. Nobody goes to McDonald's to be a regular employee and make a career out of it. Yes, it can become a career if you become like the store manager, or back in the day when they had assistants. They don't really anymore. Now it's all like they got people lead and grill lead and I don't know, weird positions now. But back when they had the store manager and the assistant, those could be like a career path for you. Or if you became like a supervisor, obviously that is a career path. I mean, the supervisor we used to have, I know he was pulling $1,500 a week. So, I mean, who'd ever think working at McDonald's you'd pull that much money? But he was. And then obviously there's even higher than that if you become like a regional manager or an owner or something. But then you're kind of out of the realm of what a McDonald's employee is. Now you're becoming more business professional. So anyways, those low-end jobs, though, obviously aren't really designed to be a career. It's just a basic job. Like, no skills. Like I said, high school kids. They come to work after school. So anyways, that's why you only make a little bit of money. Now, I get it. Some people might say, well, the people that don't have, that work that aren't high schoolers, then they want to make more money to live. Yeah, I get that. But here's the thing. You need to better yourself. You shouldn't expect to get a dick job and be financially well off of it. You want to make more, you got to better yourself. Put yourself to college, or you don't even have to go to college. There's plenty of good jobs that don't require a high school education. As long as you're willing to put the work in, like UPS can be very good. They have great benefits, and the pay can get pretty good. I mean, what do they say? 6 figures? You can easily make over $100K at UPS, and that's just by being a regular driver. Once you get promoted up a little bit, I know the supervisor for the drivers. That's not even that high of a position. It's basically step up from a driver, but that guy pulls like $120,000 a year. So you don't even need to have education. You just need to be willing to work. Yeah, it might be long days. You go in at 9 in the morning and you're usually there until 7 at night. So yeah, it's a long day, but there's better options than just McDonald's. Like, don't be lazy. So anyhow, I just think for my story, it's this. So I started working back when minimum wage was $6.75 an hour. Okay, it was dick money. My pay after working a full weekend, because that was when I was a kid still. So my full weekend's worth of pay was like $60 take home. It was nothing, but one, I was a high school kid. $60 was something awesome. It was $60. I went from having no money of my own to, now I got $60. Granted, I saved it all, and that's how I got my first car, but still. It was also reasonable though, because the way I saw it was, I'm a kid, I'm in high school, I don't have responsibilities, like, I don't need to be making tons of money. What would be the point of them paying me anything better than that? But also, even if I was an adult and that's all I was making, well, that's my problem. I chose a route that I know isn't going to pay out. So anyways, fast forward a tiny little bit, a few years down the road, probably 4 or 5 years later, minimum wage ended up getting up to $8.10 an hour. Now, I remember when that happened. I thought that was like big, like, because minimum wage was $6.75. That was in a different state, though. That was in a state over from where I live. The state I was in, minimum wage was a bit higher. I forget what it was. It was seven something. But anyways, right before it went to $8.10, it was $7.85 an hour. And when it went to $8.10, it was like, oh my God, this is so much money. Sort of. I mean, it was big. It was like, wow, we broke the $8 threshold. Jeez. And anyways, so then I ended up getting my job at McDonald's. That's when I was in college, and McDonald's was right down the street from my school, so it was super convenient. I would get out of class, and like 10 minutes later, I'd be at work. So minimum was $8.10, and they were talking about opportunities. Like, I did really well there when I first started at McDonald's. I was tearing it up. 2 weeks in, they were asking me, "Are you sure you never worked for McDonald's before?" And I was like, "Never have." I was just tearing it up though. And so they were talking about like promotion opportunities and stuff, and they're like, "Ooh, if you become the manager, you can make up to anywhere between $12 and $15 an hour." And I remember thinking, what? 12 to 15? That's so good. Compared to $8.10, $12 is 50% more. And I was like, I didn't know McDonald's could make that much money. Wow. So like that was my goal, to become a manager, because I was like, oof, I'm making some good money while I'm in college. This will be awesome. And the crappy part of it is I did actually make it to be a manager, but I didn't make $12 an hour. I never did. They gave me $1 more, $9.10. I was very disappointed. I was like, they lied to me. Or they just thought I sucked. But then if they thought I sucked, why would you promote me? I don't know. Anyways, though, still, that's what they said. And I thought, what? $15 an hour at McDonald's? Who'd ever guess that? But the point is that was something special that was earned. Like, I would have worked my way up to that. And I would have had a position that warranted that type of pay. A manager. Like, now you're saying if we're going to put minimum wage up to $15 an hour, then that's basically making it so that first off, that's more than the $12 an hour. So now $12 an hour, you'd be getting slighted. Like, well, I got promoted to make less. And two, at $15 an hour, well, now you'd be making minimum wage as a manager. Essentially, the correlation. But it's like, it's just diminishing that. So that's where the problem comes into it. These minimum wage type places, they don't give raises as it is. Jeez, what the heck? I'm always driving when I make these, and I get this moron over here that's like trying to race me, and he's almost smashing into me. Oh, yeah, I'm smart. No, you idiot. You're in the stupid lane as it is. Don't be cutting me off because you don't know how to drive. Seriously. Like, his lane is the one that's ending, not mine. What are you... Moron, don't try to cut me off. You should have pre-planned this. Anyways, thanks for interrupting my thing. So anyways, as I was saying, when minimum wage goes up, that's not even good either. People think, oh, it's going to be so much better, I'll make more money. No, you're not. All it's going to do is cause inflation. For one, companies aren't going to take a loss. They're not going to be like, oh, I was making $1 million a year profit, and just hypothetical numbers, say like McDonald's. That's not out of reason for them to probably pull something like that. So now say minimum wage goes to $15 an hour, and now they're only pulling $800,000 a year or something, $750. I don't know. They're not going to accept that. They're going to raise their prices so they keep making that $1 million profit. And possibly with inflation, that means what $1 million equates to will be reduced. $1 million won't be $1 million. You know what I mean? Like, as inflation happens, the buying power of a dollar decreases. So $1 million won't even be $1 million, which means maybe they'll increase their prices that much more, so that way then, instead of pulling in $1 million a year, they're pulling in $1.25 million. So that way then it still equates to the same type of buying power that they had before. But overall, that's some significant price hikes. Think about it. If it was $750,000 that it got dropped to, and they're going to a 1.25, that's $500,000. Which means that's some significant price hikes to make up for the difference in minimum wage going up. So yeah, minimum wage might be $15 an hour, but you're still going to be struggling. You're still going to feel just as broke as when minimum wage was $10 an hour. Because now everything's way more expensive. Gas will be way more expensive. Regular everyday items will be way more expensive. I mean, I was looking just the other day at the store, and I noticed a lot of things cost more. And I'm like, yeah, that's because of all this stupid pay increases. So now things that were $1 are now $1.50, $2 even. Even like stupid bottles of soda. Jeez, those are like $2.30 now. I remember when soda was actually cheap. It was like $1.50 to get a bottle of soda. That's really why I started drinking soda before. I used to prefer juice, but I started getting soda because it was just way cheaper. It was like, okay, I could buy this juice for $2 and it's tiny, or I could get this, it's like 10 ounces, or I could get a 20-ounce bottle of soda for $1.50. Well, obviously the soda is a better value. Double the drink for 50 cents less. 25%, what is that, 25% less. So yeah, now it's almost like it's the same. Well, I might as well just get the juice. It's healthier, and the price difference is not really that significant anymore. But anyways, yeah, so it's gonna do that for one. For two, it might actually lead to people losing their jobs. If the company chooses not to hike their prices, they might get rid of people, so that way then they're not paying out that much in what's the word I'm looking for? Not income, paying out that much in payroll. Like, I know, again, speaking from my days at McDonald's, one thing that they always are talking about is the labor cost percentages. So labor always had to be, what was it at the one I worked at? I think they wanted it to be something like 22 or lower. So anyways, if labor was too high, there was two protocols that they would do. The stupid, like, night managers who weren't really in tune with the schedule and stuff, all they would do is they'd send home they'd send home somebody early who either A, was there the longest, so like say you came in at 11 versus other people came in at 3. Well, the 11 person would go home first. Or they would do it based on whoever was out soon. Are you out in an hour? Fine, go now. So that strategy is kind of dumb. But the morning people, the people that are more in tune with the schedule, possibly even with making the schedule, their strategy was whoever has the most hours for the week would get cut. So say you were scheduled to have 40 hours that week. Even if you just walked in the door, they might send you home, because overall for that week, you have a greater impact on the labor percentage at the end of the week than somebody that has 25 hours. So anyhow, you increase minimum wage, that's going to happen to everybody just by default. Nobody's going to get full time anymore now at those places. Everybody's going to get 30 hours probably, or less. Couple that with, oh man, stupid sneeze is ruining my thing. But anyways, couple that with possibly letting people go as well. Now everybody's going to work harder. Yeah, okay, you're making more money, but inflation's just ruining that. So you're going to work harder and have less hours. You're not even going to be considered a full-time employee because you're going to get, say, 30 hours max. And yeah, it's not a good strategy. Additionally, all minimum wage does as well is it reduces the value of other jobs. Like, it's like going to college now matters even less. Like, I went to college, and I feel like if there's one thing in life that I absolutely regret, it's that I went to college. It has not paid off for me at all. I'm violently struggling, and as far as speaking in financial terms, I absolutely hate my life. This is not what I ever envisioned for myself. The life that I am living is not what I ever wanted or even expected I would have. You know, high school, even colleges lie. They always make it sound like your life is going to be so much better. No, I guarantee my life is so much worse because I chose to go to college. I guarantee it. I got Navient always calling me, emailing me, stalking the F out of me. I got no money at all because anything that I do have has to go towards this or this or this. I'm dead broke. And then I know all these people who didn't go to college, some people that didn't even graduate high school, and they're doing either A, just as well as me, or B, actually better than me. And I'm like, wow, I'm glad I'm an idiot and went to college. That's cool. Yeah, it might sound cool on paper that I have 3 degrees, but in practice, it has not paid off in the slightest bit. I mean, even now, I have a cool-sounding position. Chief engineer of a plastics manufacturing company. It doesn't matter. I make dick. So, anyway, all I'm trying to get at, though, is as you increase minimum wage on worthless jobs, like being a food service person at McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's, or a gas station tenant who just stands there all day, literally doing nothing, as you make those people have more money, people that actually have skills and invested in themselves, like me, it just diminishes what I actually make. Back to my example at $8.10 an hour. So, when minimum wage was $8.10 an hour, somebody who's just making, hypothetically, let's just say $25 an hour, they were making more than 3 times the minimum wage. That mattered. That paid off. Yeah, going to college and getting whatever job you had, or even if you didn't go to college, just getting that job that paid more when you're making $25 an hour, it paid off. It's more than 3 times minimum wage. Well, now, if minimum goes to $15 an hour, all that investment you put in yourself, whether it's college or just trying to find a better job for a better life, all that's going to do is diminish the return that you get. $15 an hour versus 25, that's only $10 more. It's not even double anymore. It went from being triple the amount of minimum to not even double. So it just devalues everything. Now it makes people that have a skill even less valuable. It's almost worthless to have a skill now. What's the point of going to college and getting a skill if all you got to do is go to McDonald's and just be brain dead and roughly make the same? You know what I mean? So that's another reason why minimum wage going up to $15 an hour is very stupid. And then when I was going on this rant, I thought of one more thing. Now I forgot it. I knew I'd forget it too. What was I talking about or thinking about? Oh, yes, that's it too. So think about minimum wage jobs currently. They are cheap in the sense of they don't really like to take care of their employees. You don't get raises. Some companies too, depending on the owner, they intentionally don't ever give you raises. But most of them, you don't get a raise. Your raise is when minimum wage goes up. These places are cheap. The owners are just in it for themselves. And so anyway, as minimum wage goes up, and it's a ridiculously high amount, you can guarantee that you will never see a raise. I mean, at least when minimum wage was low, like I remember back to my story when it was $8.10 an hour during my early McDonald's days, I got raises. I got 2 raises for doing good. The first one I got was 6 months in. They gave me, I think it was only 25 cents, but still. And then another couple months after that, I got my first promotion, so that gave me 50 cents more as well. So within a year, I got 75 cents for a raise. Granted, it's kind of dick, it's not much, but $8.10 being minimum wage, now I'm at $8.85 just because I worked hard. I did a good job. I earned that extra money. Now, with minimum wage being so high, nobody's going to see a raise. It's not going to matter how well you perform, how good of an employee you are. These places are not going to pay you extra. They're going to see it as you're already making too much as it is. I'm not going to give you more. And then think about my story, too, that I said with managers. How when minimum wage was $8.10, you could make $12 to $15 as a manager. $15 an hour is almost double minimum. For McDonald's, that's really good. But you can guarantee they're not going to do that anymore now. Almost double, that would be $30 an hour to be a McDonald's manager. That's not going to happen. Like, managers now are just going to make dick. Maybe they'll get $16 an hour. Probably not. If I know how these places work, you're going to get like $15.50. Oh, technically you're making more than minimum. Technically you're making more than the crew. But yeah, barely. So I'm going to take on all this responsibility and be a manager just for 50 cents. It was better before, because then you're getting almost double. So it felt good. Like, yeah, I made it. I'm a manager. I'm making decent money compared to what minimum wage is. So that's going to go away. And then, possibly as well, think about this also. Places that offer tips or whatever, restaurants. Don't those people make really low? Like, they make like a quarter of minimum wage, because the way that the guidelines see it is, oh, well, you're supposed to use your tips as part of your income, so we only have to pay you $4 an hour because you're supposed to be pulling in tips. Well, if that is the case, I don't know. I've never worked at a restaurant like that. I mean, I've worked at McDonald's, but that's a fake restaurant. I mean, a real restaurant. But if that's the case, anyways, like I was saying, is, well, one, are they still going to only get $4 an hour? That means their actual pay is still going to be crap, but with minimum wage being higher and everything getting more expensive, their lives are actually going to get tougher. And then think about this. People might actually tip less as well, Because A, with everything being more expensive, you might be a little more tight on your actual disposable income. And B, at the restaurant, again, the prices of the food might be higher, so your bill's going to be higher. So, say you had $60 on you. Say this is what you do. Say you just normally go to a restaurant with a set amount of money and you just leave it. Whatever the tip ends up being. So I'm using this type of example just to not make my hypothetical person seem cheap. So say normally you go to a restaurant with $60. You're like, yeah, this is good enough. Whatever's left after the bill, that's their tip. So say normally, you always linger around $48 is your bill. So that means the server got a $12 tip. Well, say now with minimum wage going up, the prices of the menu items go up. So now your bill is $55. Well, now that person only gets a $5 tip. So in this type of example, those people are going to be struggling even more with minimum wage going up, because they're still going to make dick pay, and their tips aren't going to be as good anymore now, because people are going to be tighter. Or it's just by chance, like in my example, the person just leaves 60 and says whatever, good enough, but now they get less of a tip because more of that money have to go to the bill because minimum wage is being higher. So you see where we're going with this? It's not a good idea. These people are stupid. Yeah, on the surface, it's great. Oh, yeah, I'm making tons of money now compared to what I've been. This is awesome. Yeah, no, it's not. And then think about this, too. Like I was saying way in the beginning. So a lot of minimum wage places have high school kids. What does a high school kid need to be making $15 an hour for? I mean, if anything, what they should do at the minimum wage is have 2 minimum wages then. Are you over 18 years old? Fine, you get the higher minimum wage. Are you under? Fine, you get something lower. A high school kid does not need to be making $15 an hour. That's really the only people that are going to benefit from a higher minimum wage. The kids that are living at home with their parents still and don't have any kind of responsibilities at all. They don't have gas bill, electric bill. They don't have cable bill. They don't have phone bill probably because their parents are covering it. They don't have rent, nothing. Those kids are going to be way unnecessarily benefiting from this. When I was in high school, I was pulling in, like I said, my first job was only $60 a week. After that, what did I start pulling? I think I was pulling $150, which felt good enough to me. Now these kids are going to be pulling in like $300, $350. That's why. What does a high school kid need $350-ish a week for? That's ridiculous. Imagine if they have a job that's bi-weekly, they're going to be pulling in $700 a pay. I only say it that way because like $700 for me when I was in high school was like the whole entire month. And kids nowadays will be able to make that bi-weekly. That's stupid. That's $1,400 a month. I remember how long it took me to save up $1,400. My first car was $3,000. I paid for it in cash, and it literally took me like a year and a half to save that money. Jeez, kids now will be able to do that in 2 months? Why? What does a 16, 17-year-old need that much money for in 2 months? I guess to a certain degree you could argue that they'd be good for the economy because kids are just going to be stupid and want to go to the mall or whatever and blow the money on stupid stuff. So it'll help in that regard maybe, but overall, it's still dumb. And again, as I said in the beginning, I'm saying all this as somebody who works a second job making minimum. Yeah, I think it's cool that my pay is a little bit better. I work the same amount of hours and my pay is pushing $90 now. When I started at the place a year and a half ago, my pay was only like $75. So yeah, it's cool. I got a little bit more money, but I know what cost that's coming at. So it's not really cool. Oh, and then another thing too with minimum wage going up, sometimes around the holidays, if you have a decent enough owner, they'll give you a bonus. It might be a dick bonus, it might be good bonus. I've had both. Recently, my bonus at the second job I had was dick. It was $20. That's what I make in tips a week. I was like, really? This is not a bonus. This is just tips. But I've also had decent bonuses, and they weren't super great, but for McDonald's, $50, that's okay, considering. Now I've had much better bonuses at my real job. $500, $750 one time. So, but I'm saying in relation to McDonald's, $50 is fair from McDonald's because, even though they got millions in their bank account, they're cheap as F. So for them to actually give you $50 is like, oh, you felt like being generous, sort of, to your peasants in your eyes. But anyways, chances are that might not happen. It could still happen. It could, because they'll bonuses don't matter. The companies write that off, so they get their money back anyways, which I never understand why places aren't more generous then. If you're going to get your money back, hook us up, make us happy, give everybody $1,000 for no reason. You'll get it all back come tax season. So you get to make us happy, and it affected you not at all. In the short term, it affected you. Come tax time, you get it all back anyways. But anyways, all I'm trying to say is possibly it might affect that. People might not get bonuses anymore. For a multitude of reasons. Again, the owners might just be cheap and be like, they make enough money now. They don't need a bonus. 2, they might just be cheap and be like, come up with some kind of weak, stupid excuse. Not to change the subject, but as I always say, I do these while I'm driving. When I have to go to a company to pick up some parts, and I'm sitting at a light, and it's like a T. So the vehicle that's 90 degrees from me, obviously I see the side of their vehicle, and it's a van. It's a regular like Honda Odyssey, just a standard minivan. But I'm pretty sure their rims had Porsche logos on them. So it's kind of weird. Who puts Porsche rims on their Honda Odyssey? Oh yeah, that's another part of minimum wage going way up being ridiculous as well. So I saw a TikTok by some guy. Basically what it was is, if you know anything about TikTok, it's one of those videos that the nowadays trend, tell me blah 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 without telling me blah blah blah, or just one of the tell me ones. So anyways, this one started off with tell me why minimum wage workers deserve $15 an hour, and then I don't know what the rest was because the guy was stitching it, so it got caught off from there. And basically he was saying they don't deserve $15 an hour. He was talking about how he's a mechanic, and he's like, I started out at minimum wage, and over time I worked my way up. And he says, so I was making $14 an hour. I don't know if where he lives, if minimum wage is $15 an hour or not, but it sounds like it was based on how he's told the story. So he said, he worked his way up to making $14 an hour. And then he's like, now with minimum wage going up, I got a $1 raise. So now I'm back on minimum. He worked his way up away from minimum, got his raises and everything, and now basically he's just back on minimum. So he's like, it devalued his time and effort and all that, for one. And for two, he says, there's a difference between what I do and what somebody at Wendy's does. Somebody, or whatever he said, McDonald's, Wendy's, I'm just throwing Wendy's out there because that's the first place I thought of. But he was saying, like, you go to a place like this, maybe I order my sandwich with no lettuce and you put the lettuce on. Okay, so my life is just a little bit irritated for a few minutes while I eat this sandwich that has lettuce on it that I didn't want, or I gotta sit there and pick the lettuce off because you couldn't listen to me. But at the end of the day, life goes on and I forget about it the next day and nothing happens to you. He says, but then on the flip side, look at me. Say I go and give you a tire rotation. Well, maybe I don't screw on the nuts on your tire good enough, so while you're driving, one of your tires goes flying off, ends up hitting into another car. Now that car's got a little bit of damage on it because of your tire. Now maybe you go and crash because of that tire, and maybe you either A, someone in your car dies, or B, the accident causes someone else to die, or C, you just cause a fairly good sized accident, a little bit of a pile up. So one, there's all that to contend with if I don't do my job well. Two, then what'll happen is when the police come and they ask what happened and such, you'll say, oh, I just had a tire rotation. So then they're going to ask, okay, where did you go? And then it's going to come down to my boss and I, and chances are, since I'm the one that did the work, I'm going to go to jail for involuntary manslaughter, or whatever he called it. Not involuntary manslaughter, but there's some word. It was like accidental, unplanned manslaughter or something like that. I guess if somebody died, if it was just an accident, that wouldn't happen, but you'd still maybe have fines. The company he works for might have to pay fines for not doing good work. And then what could happen is maybe he loses his job. He's like, so there's a difference in the people that make minimum. The person at Wendy's has nothing to worry about. Oh, you made your sandwich wrong, whoop-dee. Where I killed somebody because I didn't put the bolts on tight enough. And he's got a point. That those are two different I would never think of the person that's making my sandwich at McDonald's making the same as a mechanic. I feel like mechanics are supposed to make a livable, real wage. Like, you go through some sort of schooling. Yeah, you don't really go to college per se, but you go to like a technical training. Like, you see their certifications all over the wall and stuff. And yeah, so you'd think that person's making at least $20 an hour, if not more. 20's not even that great, but at least it was better than minimum. Now it's barely better than minimum. Oh, I'm making $5 more than minimum. Whoop-dee. But when minimum was $8 an hour, yeah, 20 would have been fair. That's 2.5 times more than minimum. Right on the dot, 2.5 more. Well, I guess the 10 cents throws that off. If it was 8 exact, then it would be 2.5. But anyway. So yeah, like, he has a point. And of course the comments were stupid because the people were like, oh, well, no, because the McDonald's employee has to worry about food safety. So if you get food poisoning, that could kill you too, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, you gotta shut up. Everything at fast food places is pre-cooked. Nobody's actually cooking. You're not a gourmet chef taking a raw slab of chicken and cooking it. It's all pre-cooked. You're basically just re-warming it. Even the meat, yeah, it might cook on the grill, but there's nothing special to it. You're slapping down something that's freeze-dried and all that, and you're just basically reactivating it by putting it on the grill. Like, let's be real. I mean, maybe Wendy's... that's for McDonald's. Maybe Wendy's is a little different. I know they say that their beef is fresh, never frozen. I don't know how that works, so maybe that one's a little bit more intensive. But still, for the most part, everything's already pre-cooked anyways. Like, for example, my second job at Dunkin's, you could eat any of that stuff raw. You'll be fine. It's already all cooked. It's not actually raw. You'd just be eating it cold. So... that's a weak excuse. And that guy really did have a point. A mechanic is a way different skill set and just a whole new level of worker versus some doofus, running the register at McDonald's. I mean, come on. And then that makes me think of myself as well. So when I started in engineering, this was 10 years ago, the company I started with was paying me only $14 an hour. Now, that was trash. I thought it was trash then, too. And I was very disappointed. I was like, seriously? I went to college just for $14 an hour? I thought I was going to start at like 20. What? But I just did it. I accepted it because I was like, whatever. It's my foot in the door. What am I going to do? I have no actual experience. I was basically straight out of college. I graduated in May and I got this job in July, almost exactly two months to the day. Maybe not. No, I was thinking I graduated May 10th because I started my job on July 11th. But no, I graduated May 1st. Never mind. So it wasn't almost 2 months. But still, it was 2 months and a couple weeks later. And I got the job. So I was like, I'm not going to complain. I mean, first, I found this pretty quickly. And second, it gets me some experience. If it sucks here that much, I can just leave after I have a little bit of experience under my belt. So, but anyways, again, during those days, minimum was $8.10. Still. So for me to make $14 an hour, it wasn't great, but it was almost double minimum, at least if you looked at it that way. So it was like, okay. I was expecting, like I said, more. I thought I'd be making $20 an hour to start something. I always thought engineering was kind of prestigious and stuff, and apparently not. But anyway, yeah. So now, what would that mean if I was starting out in the industry now? I'd be just making minimum? Like, that's ridiculous. So you mean to tell me that people that are new to the industry are going to start out fresh out of college making minimum wage? Like, with this logic, nobody's going to go to college. What's the point? College is supposed to make a better life, and you're going to go to college so you can start making minimum wage? Like, that's stupid. So, I don't know. Clearly, these morons that think that this is a good idea did not think it through. At all. They just, oh yeah, this sounds good. But is it? No. It's gonna F everything up for everybody else. It's gonna cause massive inflation. It's probably gonna cause massive job loss as well. It possibly will even cause probably some smaller businesses to go out of business. Like little mom and pop shops that maybe have employees on the weekend. Well, they might not go out of business per se. They just have to lose their employees. So those people that work at a mom and pop shop probably won't work there anymore. And then what happens is maybe the mom and pop shop either A, they work more, so now they never get a day off so they can run their own business, or B, they just are closed, say, 2 random days out of the week, but now they're missing out on potential sales. And so it's going to mess up so much. Like, how anybody thinks... Like, I get it. Currently, like, the national minimum wage is ridiculous. Like, it's still really low. I think the national minimum wage is still, like, $7.65 an hour, like I was making years ago. And that was the state minimum wage at that time. So, I understand maybe increasing that, because that's ridiculously low. Like, you're making nothing. But 15 is way too much. I mean, at this minimum level right now, the national, I think, being $7.65, going to 15 an hour is more than double. Like, that's obnoxious. And then the problem, I think, as well, is if the national goes to 15 an hour, that would almost make it so that every state has to follow, not almost, it would make it so every state has to follow that as well, correct? Because currently the national minimum wage is $7 whatever, like I said. So states can adopt that and say, hey, we're just following the national guideline, where other states can offer more. That's kind of like what my New England area does. As long as I've been working, we've never been on the national minimum wage. We've been on our own thing. So I feel like if you want to go to 15 an hour, then at least still offer the states the opportunity to set their own minimum wage then. Because at least then that might be a fair trade-off. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure minimum wage people will be frustrated if they could be making $15 an hour somewhere else, but they're only making, say, $11 an hour. But still, I don't know. I mean, that could get a little clunky as well, I guess, because say, I don't know, say, just because it's close to me, say Connecticut's offering Connecticut's minimum wage, but Mass goes to 15. Well, a lot of people on the edge of Connecticut might go to Mass, which means then there's no employees for Connecticut because nobody wants the reduced wages. So, I don't know. It could make a weird logistical thing if they kept that open, but still, I don't know. What else did I think of? I was saying this crap and I thought of something else and now I forgot again. Minimum wage... dang it. I hate when I have an idea and then, of course, I forget. It's like I'm talking about something else. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. And then I'm done that idea. But I can't jump off that idea I have in the moment because I know I'm going to forget to finish it after. Let's see. What was I saying? Maybe it'll re-spark myself. I was saying to have the two separate minimum wages or let the states have control over what they choose, because then people might choose there'd be no employees in a place that offers a lower minimum wage. Dang it! I had something. I don't know. Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying. So people that have been at a place forever, too. Or not, that's what I was saying, that's what I thought of. People that have been at a place for a long time, they're going to get ripped off as well. I hear of a guy, I heard through the grapevine, it's a guy I used to work with, and I was talking to someone else that I used to work with who talked to him. And he's still at the place. He hit his 5-year mark recently, I guess. And what is the minimum wage? I don't think in my area it's 15 yet. But he was talking about how he's, with minimum wage keep going up, that he's back on minimum, basically. As minimum wage goes up, any raises he's had have been kind of consumed, if you will. And now he's like, people coming off the street are making exactly the same as me now, and that's frustrating. You know, you put your time and effort into a company, and you get nothing out of it because now, we got to make minimum wage super high. Again, that's just stupid. He should be making more than somebody off the street. He's been there for 5 years. He knows what he's doing. He'd be able to train these doofuses. So, but yeah, he's going to be training these doofuses to make the same amount as them? That just doesn't seem right. I think, if anything, if they're going to do the stupid $15 thing, they need to have a couple caveats, however you say that word. One would be, like I said, a different pay for people in high school. They don't need to be making $15 an hour. $9 an hour is more than enough for them, okay? Second off, I feel like depending on your position should depend on how much you make. So say, again, like the example that I gave earlier with the mechanic. Maybe he starts out right away at 15, but maybe other people start out, like say you get a job at McDonald's, you start out as something lower. You start out at 12. And then maybe over the course of a couple years, you're guaranteed to get to 15 at least. Because right now, like I said, places don't give raises. So when minimum wage was $8.10 an hour, you're most likely going to be stuck at $8.10 forever. Because these places don't care about their employees. You could be there 10 years, you're still making $8.10. It's ridiculous. So maybe change it like that, so that way then it's kind of over a course of time, you end up being guaranteed more money at least. That would be kind of fair. I could get behind that. Like maybe say you start at $10 an hour, and every year that you work there, you're guaranteed $1 increase. Okay, it's because currently you get nothing basically, or you get like 25 cents. Well, $1 is better than 25 cents. So I can get behind that as well. But just to straight up blast everyone out, and here you go, $15 an hour, that's stupid. And in this method as well, it would help those businesses, because if you quit a job, say you've been on a job for a couple of years, so you're making $12 an hour now, $12 an hour now, but then you quit and you go to another company. Well, now you're going to start over at 10 again. Now you're going to re-put in those 5 years to get up to that 15. Where again, that mechanic, his job's more important and more skilled and stuff than a McDonald's person, so start them right away 15. Don't put the weird limitation on them. Here you go, you earned it. You put the time in yourself. Here's your 15. And then over time, hopefully his company's not crappy and they'll hook him up with some money so he gets raises too. So then maybe, where person X on minimum wage is at $15 an hour after 5 years, maybe he's at 20, 25 an hour. I'm not saying that would be mandated. I'm just saying that hopefully his company would be fair enough to hook him up. And at least there's still that disparity, and it's not just so ridiculous like they're currently posing. Oh, and then the high schoolers, they don't need that dollar differential thing. That could just wait until you're 18. If you're still with the company at 18, then you'll get $1 raise. So say you started a company at 16, you're making $10 an hour, because that's the bare minimum, I guess. Well, when you turn 17, you're either A, still making $10 an hour because you're a kid, F you, or they give you one of those crappy standard raises of 25 cents, whatever. And then when you're 18, if you're still there, then they give you not $1, then you're not going to get $1, but you get up to the next dollar. Now you're at 11. That would be kind of reasonable too. Like, okay, fine. It's a little bit better. It's not so stupid as it's currently posed. I don't know. So yeah, that's probably the worst though. Like the example I just said with the guy, how he's been there for 5 years and he makes exactly the same as people right off the street. Like, that's not right. And see, with minimum wage being forced to be that high, he's probably never going to see raises, which is very wrong, because they're not going to want to hook him up. And that's something else I was thinking too. When I worked at Walmart, I did the overnights. I'm probably going to make a separate cast on that someday. I've been planning on to. I just always forget when it comes time to make these. But I was working overnights, and the overnights gave $1 differential over normal shifts, if you will. Granted, it's not much. I mean, when I was working there, minimum wage was $12 an hour, so I was making 13, I think. Or it was 11 and I was making 12. I don't know. There was something with the 12. So it's not much, but it is still something. You're getting a differential because you're working a crappy shift. But now with minimum wage being so high, it makes me wonder, are they even going to still do that? Are they going to give overnighters $16 an hour instead? I don't know. I mean, as it currently stands, that's $3 an hour more if it was 13, $4 an hour more if it was 12. I don't think a company's going to want to do that. They're going to see it as, hey, 15 is a boost. That's $2 more an hour than you were making. And see, that's another a negative side effect of minimum jumping way up like that. Because now those people that were on overnight and have been on overnight, yeah, they're going to get more money. Like, say they're currently making $14 an hour. Say after raises and what have you, they're up to $14 an hour. Okay, so they'll go to 15. Cool. It feels like you got a raise. But you don't have that differential. You're not getting that special pay that you used to get over everyone else, because everybody is getting 15 an hour now. And then you're probably not even going to see raises. So before, you worked your way up to 14 from 13 due to raises. Now, are you going to get raises? Who knows? You might not. Again, companies trying to be cheap. It's just a very dumb idea. That's why I want to try to get into politics. I'm in my local politics. Well, technically I'm not in it yet, but they said that I should be inducted next meeting that we have, and then I will be officially in my local town's political sphere. But yeah, that's why I want to get into it. Not because I want to be in politics. Politics sucks. No one cares about politics. It's boring. It's a bunch of idiots. But I want to get into it to make positive changes that make sense. Not all these doofuses that just ugh. That's another T4Cast I'm going to make too. Talk about all my ideas I have. Anyways, I think that's it. I don't know what else I could say. I just strongly think this $15 an hour thing is ridiculous and not thought out at all, and it really needs to not happen. And I mean, unfortunately, I can't say anything because it's going to happen. Like, I can't even say I hope it doesn't happen because it's going to. And it's stupid. It's very bad. And yeah, there's a Twitter account called Democrats Are Ruining This Country or something like that, and I follow them just because of the name. I agree with the name. They are. All these stupid ideas that are out there are the dumb Democrats' ideas, and it's ridiculous. So yeah, that's it. I'm just going to be at the point now where I'm just rambling because I'm still driving and I'm not in my job yet, and I just want to ramble to try to fill up the time, but I'm not going to do that because that's stupid. So that's it, and until the next one, you already know I said see ya. See ya.